Have you ever met someone at exactly the wrong moment, only to realize later it was exactly the right time? The crayon drawing taped to the classroom wall showed a little girl in a red cape, arms stretched wide, standing between two stick figures, one tall and angry, one small and crying. Across the top, in careful block letters, "Miss Parker is my hero." But Lily Parker didn't feel like a hero. Heroes made brave choices. She just tried to survive hers. The empty classroom was quiet now, late afternoon light slanting golden through Venetian blinds. Lily stood at her desk, gathering scattered crayons into a tin, her fingers lingering on the edge of that drawing. Sometimes she wondered if the little girl in the picture was really her student, or if it was herself, decades ago, standing between her parents' rage and her own fear. Outside, car engines hummed, parents picking up children, the world moving forward like it always did. Her phone buzzed. FaceTime. Emma's grinning face filled the screen. "Lily Parker, before you say no." "Emma, 5 minutes of your time. That's all I'm asking." Emma's eyes sparkled with that dangerous optimism of hers. "There's this guy, accountant, certified boring, wears ties, probably has a 401k. Lily sighed, closing the crayon tin with a soft click. "I'm happy with my life as it is." "Are you, though?" Emma's voice gentled. "You tell your students that everyone deserves a chance at happiness. Don't you deserve one too?" Lily's gaze drifted back to the drawing, the girl in the cape, the space between violence and safety. "One dinner," Emma pressed. "If he's weird, you leave. I promise. No drama, no complications, just a normal evening with a normal guy." Normal. The word felt foreign and appealing all at once. "Where?" Emma's squeal was immediate. "Antonio's on 5th, 7 o'clock tonight. His name's Michael. I'll text you his photo." The call ended. Lily looked around her classroom. Alphabet posters, globe on the shelf, tiny desks in neat rows. This was her safe world, predictable, controlled. What harm could one dinner do? She picked up her bag and whispered to the empty room, "Just one night." Outside, across the city, a man in a black suit was making the same decision. Neither of them knew their lives were about to collide in ways they couldn't imagine. 30 floors above the city, the office was all glass and steel. Through the windows, the skyline glittered like scattered diamonds, and the sun bled into the horizon. Ethan Cross stood behind his mahogany desk, hands in his pockets, watching the light fade. His bodyguard, Marco, cleared his throat. "They've been following you all week, boss. Black sedan, different plates each day. They're not even trying to be subtle anymore." Ethan's jaw tightened. "What's the intel for tonight?" "They might make a move. We don't have details on when or where." Claire, his sharp-eyed assistant, stepped forward with a tablet. "Sir, you have that business dinner at 7. Antonio's restaurant. The investor wants to discuss expanding your restaurant chain." Ethan turned from the window. "Cancel it." With respect, a crowded restaurant might be safer than an empty street. Claire's expression remained neutral. Public space, witnesses, normal people doing normal things. Marco nodded slightly. "She has a point." Ethan moved to the mirror near the door, adjusting his black tie against the crisp white shirt. He looked like what he'd spent years pretending to be, a legitimate businessman, clean, respectable. But his eyes told the truth, tired, cold, the eyes of someone who'd spent too long in shadows. On the corner of the mirror, barely visible, a small photograph was tucked into the frame. A younger Ethan stood beside a teenage boy. Same dark hair, same smile. Brothers. Ethan's hand lifted, fingers brushing the photo's edge. 3 years. That's how long his younger brother had been gone. Betrayed by someone they'd trusted. The kind of wound that never quite healed. He'd been trying to leave this life ever since. But men in his world didn't get retirement parties. They got prison sentences or unmarked graves. 1 hour, he said quietly, dropping his hand. I'll go, make an appearance, then I'm out. Claire handed him a folder. The investor's information, though honestly, something feels off about this meeting. A school teacher wanting to discuss restaurant investments. Ethan didn't open the folder. A teacher? According to the reservation, name's Parker. Claire frowned. Could be nothing. Could be a setup. Marco's hand moved closer to his concealed weapon. You want us inside with you? Close but not obvious. Ethan buttoned his suit jacket. If this is a trap, I'd rather see it coming. He walked toward the elevator, and Marco fell into step beside him. What if it's not a setup? Marco asked. What if it's just dinner? Ethan's mouth almost curved into a smile. Almost. Marco, when was the last time anything in my life was just anything? The elevator doors closed, and Ethan descended toward whatever waited below. Antonio's wrapped around Lily like a warm embrace. Golden light, the scent of garlic and rosemary, soft jazz floating from hidden speakers. Couples leaned over candlelit tables, murmuring and laughing. Lily stood just inside the entrance, clutching her purse. This place was fancier than she'd expected. The prices on the menu board near the door made her wince. The hostess, elegant in all black, smiled. Good evening. Do you have a reservation? Parker, I'm meeting someone. Of course. Right this way. Lily followed through the dining room, past white linen tablecloths and crystal glasses that caught the light. She tugged at the hem of her floral skirt, suddenly aware of how simple her outfit looked compared to the other women here. The hostess gestured to a corner booth. Your table. Can I start you with something to drink while you wait? Just water, thank you. Lily slid into the leather seat, which was softer than her couch at home. Of course. Your server will be right with you. Alone now, Lily set her purse on the seat beside her and pulled out her phone. No messages from Michael. Emma had forwarded his number with a string of emojis, hearts and champagne glasses and crossed fingers. She pulled up the photo again. Michael in his cardigan, smiling, safe. Exactly what she needed. No complications, no drama, just a nice dinner with a nice man who probably had a retirement plan and a subscription to the local newspaper. She checked her reflection in the phone's dark screen, smoothed her hair, brown and wavy, refusing to behave despite her best efforts, then tucked the phone away. You can do this, be yourself, smile, ask questions. If it's awkward, you can leave after the appetizer. No harm done. Across the restaurant, the hostess intercepted another arrival. She glanced at her reservation list, running a perfectly manicured finger down the names. Parker, 7 o'clock, table 12. She gestured toward the corner booth where Lily sat. Footsteps approached, confident, measured. A chair moved. Lily glanced up from smoothing her napkin, and the air left her lungs in a rush. This was definitely not Michael from the blurry photo. The man sitting down across from her was not wearing a cardigan. He was wearing a black suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. Sharp jawline, dark hair cut precisely, eyes like winter, gray, assessing, taking in everything with the kind of focused attention that made Lily feel suddenly visible in a way she wasn't sure she liked. He wasn't smiling, but there was something in his expression, surprise maybe, or confusion quickly masked. "Parker?" His voice was low, controlled, with just a hint of roughness underneath. "Yes, Lily Parker." She extended her hand automatically, trying to cover her shock with politeness. "You must be. I'm sorry, Emma didn't mention your Ethan." He shook her hand once, briefly. His grip was firm, warm, careful, like he was very aware of his own strength and deliberately gentling it. He sat back, studying her with that unsettling focus. Lily resisted the urge to check if she had something in her teeth. "No," she started, searching for safe conversational ground. "What do you do, Ethan?" He paused, just a fraction too long. A tell. "Paperwork mostly, business operations, managing things." "That sounds structured." She folded her hands on the table, trying to ignore the way her heart was doing something complicated in her chest. This wasn't Michael. This was someone else entirely. But the hostess had brought him to her table, so maybe, "Do you enjoy it?" "It's what I know." His answers were careful, measured, like he was weighing every word before letting it out. Silence stretched between them like a wire pulled taut, humming with tension neither of them knew how to break. A waiter appeared, mercifully, bringing her water and presenting menus with a flourish. "Good evening. Can I start you with a bottle of wine? We have an excellent Chianti that pairs beautifully with our pasta dishes." Lily opened her mouth to politely decline. Wine was expensive, but Ethan spoke first. "The Chianti is fine, thank you." "Very good, sir." The waiter disappeared, and Lily looked at the menu, her eyes immediately finding the prices. Her stomach did a small flip. Okay, this was definitely more expensive than she'd planned for. She found the cheapest pasta, still $38, and closed the menu. Ethan was watching her. Not reading his menu, just watching. "The food here is excellent," he said. "Order whatever you want. Don't worry about price." Her cheeks heated. Had she been that obvious? "I'm fine with pasta." "Lily." And he said her name like he was testing how it felt. "Please, order what you actually want to eat." Something in his tone, gentle, genuine, made her relax slightly. "Okay, thank you." When the waiter returned with wine, they ordered. Lily chose the pasta anyway. Ethan ordered something in Italian that sounded complicated and delicious. "You said you're Parker?" Ethan asked after their wine was poured. "Yes, Lily Parker. I teach 3rd grade at Riverside Elementary." She took a sip of wine. It was better than anything she'd ever tasted, smooth and rich. "What about you? Where do you work?" "I own some restaurants, a few other businesses." Vague again, careful. "Restaurants? That's interesting." She leaned forward slightly. "Is that why we're meeting here? Are you checking out the competition?" His expression shifted, something that might have been amusement. "Something like that? 3rd grade must be energetic." She laughed, and some of the strangeness eased. "That's a very polite word for chaos, but I love it, really. Kids at that age are honest in ways adults forget how to be. They say what they mean. They cry when they're sad, laugh when they're happy. No pretending." "That's rare." He took a drink of his wine. his eyes never leaving hers. In my experience, most people spend their whole lives pretending. What do they pretend? That they're happy, that they're satisfied, that they chose the life they're living. His voice dropped lower, that they wouldn't change everything if they could. The sudden vulnerability caught her off guard. This wasn't small talk anymore. I don't think that's pretending, Lily said softly. I think that's surviving. Sometimes people get stuck in lives they didn't plan. But that doesn't mean they're lying about who they are. It just means they're doing the best they can. Ethan went very still, his focus sharpening like she'd said something that mattered more than she knew. I had a student last year, Lily continued, warming to the subject, grateful for familiar ground. His father was difficult, angry, violent, if I'm being honest. The boy, Marcus, would come to school with bruises, always had an excuse, fell off his bike, walked into a door, that kind of thing. She could see it in Ethan's face. He knew those excuses. He'd probably heard them before. One day, I kept him after class, just the two of us, and I told him, Marcus, you don't have to protect anyone. You don't have to be strong. You don't have to carry this alone. You just need to let someone help you. That's not weakness. That's courage. What did he say? Ethan's voice was barely above a whisper. He cried for a long time. Then he told me everything. Lily's throat tightened with the memory. I called social services that day. It took 3 months, but eventually Marcus went to live with his grandmother. I saw him last week at the grocery store. He was smiling, really smiling, like he'd forgotten what that felt like. You saved him. I just showed up. That's all. Sometimes that's all it takes. One person who sees what's happening and refuses to look away. Ethan set down his wine glass carefully, like he didn't trust his hands. You really believe that? That people can start over? I have to believe it. She met his eyes directly. Because if I don't, if I think people are stuck in the worst versions of their lives forever, then what's the point of trying? What's the point of teaching kids that they can be whoever they want to be? Even if they've done terrible things, even then, she didn't look away. I think everyone deserves a chance to choose differently, to try again, to be better than they were yesterday, if someone's willing to believe in them. For a long moment, Ethan said nothing. He just looked at her like she was something precious and fragile and completely unexpected. Then his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and something changed in his expression. Just a flicker. Tension, maybe, or concern quickly masked. The text from Claire. Your investor canceled an hour ago. Traffic accident on the bridge. She's fine but can't make it. You're at the wrong table. Ethan's mind worked quickly, pieces falling into place. This woman, this elementary school teacher with gentle eyes and fierce convictions, wasn't his business dinner. She was here for a blind date with someone else. Someone who hadn't shown up yet. He'd walked into the wrong meeting entirely. He should stand up right now, apologize, explain the mix-up, leave before this got more complicated. But something made him hesitate. Maybe it was the way she talked about second chances like they were real, like they mattered, like people, even people who'd done terrible things, could choose to be different. Maybe it was the fact that outside these walls, danger was circling, tightening, closing in. And inside, across from this stranger, he felt something he hadn't felt in years, human. Or maybe, and this scared him more than he wanted to admit, maybe it was the simple fact that he didn't want this conversation to end. Everything okay? Lily asked, noticing his distraction. He pocketed the phone, made a decision. Just work? Nothing urgent? He looked at her directly. Tell me more about teaching. What made you choose that? And she did. She told him about art projects that turned into glitter explosions, about the boy who collected rocks and the girl who wanted to be a veterinarian, about reading Harry Potter aloud and watching kids discover magic for the first time. Ethan listened, really listened, asking questions that surprised her with their thoughtfulness, about how she handled difficult parents, about what she did when a child struggled, about whether she'd always wanted to teach. My mother was a teacher, Lily said, her voice softening. Before things got bad at home. She used to say that teaching was the most important job in the world because you were shaping futures, building hope. She smiled sadly. She stopped teaching when I was 7. My father didn't like her having her own income, her own independence. He hurt her, not a question. Yes, Lily took a breath. And I stood between them more times than I can count, with a baseball bat once. I was 8 years old, shaking so hard I could barely hold it. But I stood there anyway, because someone had to. Ethan's hand clenched on the table. You were a child. I was, but I learned something important that day. She looked at him steadily. I learned that fear doesn't mean you can't act. It just means you have to be braver than you think you are. Their food arrived, but neither of them moved to eat. The moment was too charged, too honest. Do you have family? Lily finally asked, his hand stilled on his fork. I had a younger brother, Danny. He died 3 years ago. I'm so sorry, Ethan. He was 19, full of plans. He was going to be the one who got out clean, you know? Who made something different of himself. His voice was rough with old grief. He used to say that everyone gets one chance to rewrite their story, that it's never too late to choose differently. He sounds wise. He was better than me, kinder, more hopeful. Ethan's jaw worked. He died because someone we trusted betrayed us. And I've been living with that for 3 years, wondering if I could have protected him better, done something different. Lily reached across the table, her hand hovering near his. Not touching, but close, an offer of comfort. You can't carry that alone. It wasn't your fault. Wasn't it? No. Her voice was firm. You didn't betray him. Someone else did. And carrying their guilt doesn't honor his memory. Living the kind of life he believed you could live does. Ethan looked at her hand, so close to his. Then he closed the distance, his fingers wrapping around hers, warm, solid, real. Thank you, he said quietly. They ate, they talked more, about books and terrible movies, and the strangeness of trying to be a good person in a complicated world, about childhood dreams and adult realities, about how hard it was to forgive yourself for things you couldn't change. An hour passed, then another. Lily had forgotten she was supposed to be on a blind date with someone else. Ethan had forgotten there were men outside who wanted him dead. For just a little while, they were 2 people sharing a meal and discovering they understood each other in ways they hadn't expected. Then the door opened, and a man in a beige cardigan entered, looking flustered and apologetic. He approached their table. Excuse me, I'm so terribly sorry I'm late. Traffic was a nightmare, and then I couldn't find parking. Are you Lily Parker? Lily's eyes widened. The photo, the cardigan, Oh, yes, Michael? The man smiled with relief. Yes, I was so worried you'd left. He noticed Ethan for the first time. Oh, I'm sorry, am I interrupting? Ethan stood smoothly, his entire demeanor shifting. Gone was the man who'd been opening up about his brother. In his place stood someone cold, controlled, decisive. There's been a mix-up. This table is reserved. He pulled out his wallet, extracted $300 bills, placed them on the table in front of Michael. The restaurant across the street is excellent. My apologies for the confusion. Michael blinked at the money, then at Lily's bewildered face, then at Ethan's expression that wasn't quite threatening but definitely wasn't friendly. Right, sure, no problem. He grabbed the bills, gave Lily an apologetic shrug, and retreated quickly. Lily stared at Ethan as he sat back down. What just happened? Why did you? I wasn't ready for this conversation to end. His voice dropped, becoming more vulnerable again. Were you? She should say yes, should leave right now, should follow Michael across the street to the safe, boring dinner she'd originally planned. But she looked at Ethan, really looked, and saw beneath the ice and the control, saw loneliness, saw someone trying desperately to be better than his circumstances, saw a man who'd lost his brother and was still trying to figure out how to honor that loss. No, she said softly, I wasn't ready either. His shoulders relaxed, just slightly. Thank you. But I need to know something. What? Is your name really Ethan, or is that another mix-up? He almost smiled. It's really Ethan, Ethan Cross. And you really own restaurants? I do, several, among other things. Other things that require you to be vague and careful about what you say? Yes, at least he was honest about that. They talked for another hour, about family and loss, and the strange paths that led people to where they were, about how hard it was to leave the past behind when it kept reaching forward to pull you back. When the check came, significantly higher than Lily had ever spent on a meal, Ethan paid before she could protest. Can I walk you to your car? He asked as they stood to leave. It's late. Something in his tone, protective, assumptive, careful, almost urgent, made her nod. Outside, the parking garage was a different world. Cold concrete and fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, casting everything in harsh white. Their footsteps echoed, too loud in the empty space. Lily's car was parked near the far wall, a small blue sedan that was practical and reliable, and nothing like the life she'd just glimpsed. She reached into her purse for her keys. Excuse me. They both turned. Two men stood 20 feet away, leather jackets despite the warm night, hands in pockets in a way that suggested they were holding something. One was tall and broad-shouldered, built like a bouncer. The other thin and wiry, with a scar running along his jaw, like someone had tried to smile for him with a knife. Evening, Cross. The tall one's smile wasn't friendly. Didn't expect to see you here, especially not with company. Lily's pulse jumped into her throat. Cross. That was Ethan's last name. These men knew him. Gentlemen. Ethan's voice went completely flat, emotionless. Every trace of the vulnerable man from dinner vanished. You're lost. Just surprised, that's all. The thin one's eyes slid to Lily, assessing, calculating. Pretty thing. She know what you do for a living, Cross? Or you feeding her the businessman's story? Marco appeared from near the elevator, moving fast but controlled. Another suited man flanked him, must have been nearby the whole time. They positioned themselves strategically, not aggressive but present, available. Ethan's hand found Lily's lower back, firm and commanding. He guided her closer, then his arm slid around her shoulders, pulling her against his side. His body was warm, solid, tense as a drawn bowstring. "She's with me," Ethan said, his voice dropping to something cold and dangerous. "That's all you need to know. That's all anyone needs to know." The thin one's hand shifted in his jacket pocket. For one terrible, frozen moment, Lily saw the outline of something metal, something shaped like. Marco stepped forward smoothly, placing his considerable bulk between them. His companion's hand moved to his own jacket, mirroring the threat without escalating it. The tall man raised his palms, backing off half a step. "Easy now, just making conversation. Just surprised to see you with someone serious, that's all." He looked at Ethan with something like grudging respect. "Didn't know you had someone. Changes the situation if you do." "Now you know." Ethan's arm tightened around Lily, not painful, but secure, protective. "Yeah." The tall one nodded slowly. "Now we know." They walked away, disappearing into the shadows of the parking garage. But Lily heard their footsteps for too long, echoing, fading slowly. Heard the far-off sound of a car door opening, an engine starting. Ethan didn't move until the sound of the engine faded completely. Then he stepped back, releasing Lily. But his hands were trembling slightly, not from fear, she realized, but from the adrenaline of staying calm when violence had been seconds away. "What was that?" Her voice came out smaller than she intended. "Something I'm sorry you witnessed." "You called me. You said I was with you. It was the fastest way to keep you safe." He turned to face her fully. "Lily, I need to take you home. Your car stays here tonight. I'll have someone bring it to you tomorrow, detailed and with a full tank." "I don't understand. Those men weren't here by accident." His voice was urgent now, the careful control cracking. "They were looking for me, and now they've seen you, which means you're not safe alone. Please, trust me on this." Something in his eyes, fear for her, not himself, made her nod. The SUV was everything his careful words had suggested: luxury and shadows, tinted windows and leather seats, technology she didn't recognize. The kind of vehicle that looked ordinary but was anything but. Marco drove. Another man sat up front, silent and watchful. Ethan sat beside Lily in the back, staring out the window, jaw tight, shoulders tense. She studied him, the sharp line of his jaw, the way his hands clenched and released in his lap, the careful distance he kept between them now. This wasn't a man who managed paperwork. This was something else entirely. When they reached her apartment building, a modest complex in a safe neighborhood, Ethan walked her to the door, Marco staying with the SUV. "Thank you," Lily said quietly, hugging herself against the night chill. "For whatever that was." He met her eyes, and in the porch light, his face was all shadows and regret. "Lily, if anyone asks about tonight, tell them you had a date. It didn't work out. You're not seeing him again." "Why?" "Because it keeps you safe." "From what? From who?" He didn't answer. Instead, he turned toward the SUV. "Ethan." He paused, hand on the door handle. "Who are you really?" He looked back at her, and the weight of everything unsaid hung between them like smoke. "Someone who should have stayed at the wrong table." His voice was barely audible, someone who should have walked away the moment I realized the mistake. But you didn't. No, he agreed quietly. I didn't, and now you're in danger because of it. I'm sorry. Then he was gone, the SUV pulling away, taillights disappearing into the night. Lily stood on her doorstep, cold and confused and scared. But underneath the fear was something else, curiosity. Because Ethan Cross, whoever he really was, had looked at her like she mattered. Like her words about second chances weren't naive platitudes, but something real and precious. And she wanted to understand why. Inside her apartment, she locked the door, checked the windows, and pulled out her laptop. She typed 2 words into the search bar. Ethan Cross. What she found kept her awake until dawn. The teacher's lounge smelled like microwaved leftovers and burnt coffee. 3 days had passed since the dinner. 3 days since Lily had heard from Ethan. Her phone had stayed silent. No texts, no calls, like he'd never existed. She sat at the small table during lunch, half-heartedly eating a salad, while the other teachers chatted around her. The TV in the corner played the midday news, volume low. Federal investigation into the Cross Group expanding today. Ethan Cross, CEO of a restaurant and logistics empire spanning 3 states, faces allegations of money laundering and connections to organized crime. The FBI has not yet. Lily's fork clattered to the table. The screen showed a photo. Sharp suit, cold eyes. The same man who'd sat across from her talking about his brother, who'd listened like her words mattered. Ethan Cross, not an accountant, not a paper pusher. The news called him something else entirely. God, can you imagine? One of the teachers gestured at the TV. Dating someone like that? You'd never sleep soundly. Another laughed. Men like that don't date, they possess. Lily's hands trembled in her lap. She stood abruptly, grabbed her bag, left without explaining. In her classroom, she locked the door and leaned against it, heart pounding. Mafia. The word tasted bitter. It belonged in movies, not in her life. Not attached to a man who'd talked about second chances and honoring his brother's memory. She'd survived her father's violence by vowing never to let that chaos back in. And now her phone buzzed. Unknown number. I can explain. Please don't be afraid. Her fingers hovered over the keys. Delete, block, call the police? Before she could decide, another message. I'm outside. If you want me to leave, I will. But I owe you the truth. She looked out the window. The parking lot was mostly empty. One black SUV sat near the gate. Lily took a breath, unlocked her classroom door, and walked outside. The afternoon sun was harsh, unforgiving. Ethan stood beside the SUV, no bodyguards visible this time, though she suspected they were nearby. He looked tired, the sharp edges of him softened by something that might have been regret. "Who are you?" Lily asked, stopping 10 feet away. "You saw the news." "I saw something. I want to hear it from you." He didn't flinch from her gaze. "I'm not an accountant. I run restaurants, yes, logistics companies, but the money behind them comes from places I'm not proud of. I've spent years trying to make it legitimate, but the past doesn't wash away easily." "The Mafia," she said it flatly. "That's what they called it." "That's what it is." The honesty hit harder than a lie would have. At least he wasn't making excuses. "Those men in the parking garage," she continued, "they knew you. They were threatening me to get to you." "Yes." her hands clenched into fists. I grew up in a house where fear was the only constant, where I learned to sleep light because any sound could mean violence, where I stood between my parents with shaking hands, begging my father to stop. Her voice cracked. I swore I would never, ever let that world touch me again. I understand. You don't. Tears stung her eyes, but she blinked them back. You're exactly the kind of man I've spent my entire adult life avoiding. And you pulled me into your world without asking, without warning. Ethan's jaw worked. You're right. And if I could take it back, if I could have walked away that night, I would. But I didn't. He took a step closer. Those men in the garage were looking for me. They've been hunting me for weeks. If you hadn't been there, if they'd found me alone, he paused. You being there probably saved my life. But it also put a target on your back, and I'm sorrier than you'll ever know. Sorry doesn't fix this. I know. His voice dropped. But I am trying to get out. I have been for 3 years since my brother died. It's not as simple as just walking away. People like me don't get clean exits. They get prison sentences or unmarked graves. But I'm working on it. I've been building a case, gathering evidence, trying to find a way to cooperate with the feds in exchange for immunity. She stared at him, searching his face for lies, for manipulation, for the smooth charm her colleagues had warned about. Why should I believe anything you say? You shouldn't. He stepped back toward the SUV. You should go inside, lock your door, forget we ever met, block my number, tell anyone who asks that you had one dinner with a guy, it didn't work out. End of story. It's safer that way, smarter. Then why are you here? Because I owed you the truth. He opened the SUV door. Because you deserved to know why men with guns might be watching your apartment. Why you need to be careful. His voice got quieter. Because I'm sorry for all of it. Wait. He stopped, hand on the doorframe. She wrapped her arms around herself, the afternoon sun suddenly not warm enough. If you're lying to me, if this is some kind of manipulation to keep me quiet or make me complicit, I'll never forgive you. I'll go to the police. I'll tell them everything. I know. Then prove it. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. You want me to believe you're trying to get out? That you want to be different? Then show me. Really leave. Not just words, action. Ethan looked at her for a long moment. Something shifted in his expression. Determination, maybe. Or the kind of decision that changes everything. Okay. You mean it? I do. He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. I'm giving you a number, not mine, a federal agent I've been in contact with. If anything happens, anything that scares you or feels wrong, you call her directly. Her name is Agent Sarah Chen. She knows about you now. She'll protect you. He showed her the screen. Lily took a photo of the number with her own phone. Thank you, she said quietly. He nodded once, then got into the SUV. Lily stood alone in the parking lot as the vehicle drove away, watching until it disappeared around the corner. Her phone buzzed. The number he'd given her. A text. This is Agent Chen. Mr. Cross briefed me on your situation. If you need anything, call this number immediately. We're taking your safety seriously. Lily stared at the message. This was real. This was actually happening. She'd gone on a blind date and somehow ended up in the middle of a federal investigation. She should be terrified. And she was. But underneath the fear was something else. something that felt dangerously like hope, because Ethan Cross had looked at her and made a choice. To tell the truth, to protect her, to try to be better than what he was. And maybe, just maybe, that meant something. Trust is earned through action, not words. If this story is pulling at your heart, subscribe and tell me in the comments. Have you ever believed in someone no one else did? 4 days. That's how long Lily waited. 4 days of teaching and grading and pretending everything was normal while her phone stayed silent. On the 5th night, she sat in her small apartment, a mug of tea cooling in her hands. The rain had started an hour ago, steady and soft against the windows. She'd Googled Ethan Cross obsessively, found articles about his business empire, photos of him at charity galas, always alone, always wearing that same distant expression. Nothing concrete about criminal charges, just ongoing investigations and alleged connections. Maybe he really was trying to go legitimate. Maybe the news had it wrong. Or maybe she was being naive. A sound outside her door, faint, a footstep in the hallway. Lily froze. Probably just a neighbor. The building was old, sounds traveled, but then a shadow moved across the frosted glass. A silhouette, standing still, waiting. Her heart kicked into her throat. The doorknob turned. Slowly, testing the lock, locked. Thank God. Lily set down the mug with trembling hands. The clock on the wall ticked too loud, each second stretching. Should she call 911? What would she say? Someone tried my door? Her phone buzzed in her hand. Unknown number. She answered, voice barely a whisper. Hello? Lily, it's Ethan. Don't open your door. How did you? I have someone watching your building. They saw 2 men enter 15 minutes ago. They're at your door right now. Do you have a back exit? Outside her door, voices, low, male, speaking too quietly to make out words. Lily, I need you to move, now. There's a fire escape. Take it. My guy will meet you at the bottom. Don't take anything, just go. The doorknob rattled harder. She dropped the phone on the couch, grabbed her jacket, ran for the back door. The fire escape was old iron, slick with rain. She took the stairs 2 at a time, hands gripping the wet railing, heart hammering so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. At the bottom, a man in a dark jacket stepped from the shadows. Miss Parker, this way. She hesitated. Ethan sent me. Please. She followed him to a car in the alley. The door opened. Inside, Ethan sat waiting, jaw tight, eyes dark with something that looked like fear. Lily climbed in, and the car pulled away fast. Why? She couldn't catch her breath. Why are they after me? Because they saw us together in the parking garage. They saw the way you looked at me. Confused, but not afraid. They think you matter to me. He turned to face her. They saw you as something they could use as leverage. Against you? Yes. Then drop me somewhere safe. I'll disappear, change my name. They already know your face, your name, where you work, where you live. His voice was rough. Running won't help anymore. She pressed her palms against her eyes. This can't be happening. I teach 8-year-olds. I can't. Lily, look at me. She lowered her hands. Ethan leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You have 2 choices. 1, I put you on a plane tonight. New city, new identity, fresh start. I never contact you again, and you live your life in peace. And the other choice? You stay, and I do what I should have done when my brother died. I cooperate with the authorities, give them everything they need, burn it all down, get out for real. That's suicide, she said quietly. Men like you don't just walk away. Maybe not, but I'm tired of living like this, tired of looking over my shoulder, tired of being the kind of man good people should avoid. His gaze held hers. You asked me to prove I meant it. This is how. Why now? Why for me? Because you reminded me that starting over is possible. Because you believe everyone deserves that chance. He looked away. I haven't believed I deserved anything good in a very long time, but maybe I was wrong. The car stopped in front of a nondescript building. Marco opened the door. Safe house, Miss Parker. Security on every entrance. Lily looked at Ethan. If I stay, if I help you do this, you have to promise me something. What? No more lies, ever, no matter how hard the truth is. I can handle danger. I can't handle deception. He nodded slowly. Deal. She took his hand. His palm was warm, solid. Then let's finish this. The safe house was sparse but secure. 2 floors, reinforced windows, guards posted at every entrance. Lily sat in the upstairs room, watching through a monitor as Ethan made phone calls, negotiated terms, built the case that would either free him or destroy him. Marco brought her coffee. He's doing this for you, you know. I know, her voice was small. I've worked for him for 7 years, never seen him care about anything except surviving. Marco leaned against the doorframe. Then you show up, and suddenly he's ready to risk everything. I didn't ask him to. Doesn't matter. Some people just change you, whether you ask them to or not. Over the next 3 days, Lily learned things she'd never wanted to know. She learned that Ethan's logistics companies moved more than goods, that the restaurants laundered money, that the brother he'd lost had been killed because he'd wanted out and someone had made an example of him. She learned that Ethan had been gathering evidence for years, quietly, carefully, waiting for the right moment. She was that moment. The FBI sent agents. They sat in the safe house living room, a woman with sharp eyes and a silver-haired man who'd seen too much. Ethan handed over files, digital records, names, locations, a roadmap to dismantling the network he'd been part of. This is good, the female agent said. This is enough for immunity if you testify. I'll testify, Ethan said. Whatever it takes. They'll retaliate, the silver-haired agent warned. When they realize what you've done, they'll come for you. I know. We can offer protection, but it's not foolproof. I understand the risks. Lily watched from the doorway, her heart in her throat. That night, after the agents left, she found Ethan standing on the safe house balcony, staring at the city lights. You don't have to do this, she said softly. He turned. Yes, I do. If something happens to you, then at least I'll have tried. He stepped closer. When I was 8 years old, my mother told me I was born unlucky. Wrong place, wrong family, wrong choices before I was old enough to make them. I believed her. His voice cracked slightly. My brother didn't. He always said I could choose differently, that it wasn't too late. Lily reached for his hand. He died trying to prove that, Ethan continued, and I've been too afraid to honor that until now. Until you reminded me what courage actually looks like. I'm not brave. Yes, you are. When you were 8, you stood between your parents with a baseball bat in your hands. You were terrified, but you did it anyway. He squeezed her hand. That's what I'm doing now. standing between who I was and who I want to be. And yeah, I'm terrified, but I'm doing it. She stepped closer until they were barely a breath apart. I'm scared too. Of me. For you. She looked up at him. I didn't plan on caring about you, but I do. And if you don't come back from this, he cupped her face gently. I'll come back, I promise. Then he kissed her, soft, careful, full of all the words they hadn't said yet. When they pulled apart, Lily whispered, You'd better keep that promise. I will. The warehouse district was abandoned at night, all concrete and shadows, broken streetlights casting sickly yellow pools. Ethan stood beside his SUV, a manila envelope in hand. Inside, every piece of evidence the FBI needed: financial records, names, proof. Lily watched from an upstairs room, Marco beside her, a monitor showing the parking lot below. He knows what he's doing, Marco said, but his voice was tense. 2 FBI vehicles pulled up. The female agent and her partner stepped out, flanked by 2 others. Ethan handed over the envelope. The agent opened it, scanned the contents, nodded. This is good, Mr. Cross. This is... Headlights, fast. Another car roared into the lot, followed by 2 more. No, Lily breathed. Men poured out, 4 from the first car, 3 from the second. Weapons drawn. Marco swore. They knew. Someone tipped them off. On the monitor, everything happened in seconds. Ethan dove behind the SUV. The FBI agents scattered, shouting into radios. Gunfire erupted, sharp cracks echoing off concrete, muzzle flashes in the dark. Lily's hands flew to her mouth. She couldn't see details, didn't want to. Just silhouettes running, agents taking cover, the terrible sound of violence. He promised, she whispered. He promised he'd come back. Sirens wailed in the distance, backup arriving. The attackers scattered, running for their vehicles. One was tackled by an FBI agent. Another dropped his weapon, hands raised, then silence. The monitor showed Ethan slowly standing, one hand pressed to his side. No, Lily said. No, no, no. She bolted for the door. Marco grabbed her arm. Miss Parker, let me go. He did. She ran down the stairs, out into the cold night. The air smelled like gunpowder and rain. Ethan sat on the ground back against the SUV. An EMT was cutting away his shirt, revealing a dark stain spreading across his ribs. Lily dropped to her knees beside him. Ethan! He looked up, eyes glazed with pain but still sharp. You were supposed to stay inside. You were supposed to not get shot. He laughed, then winced. Fair point. The EMT pressed gauze to the wound. Graze. Painful but not life-threatening. You're lucky, sir. Ethan's gaze found Lily's. Yeah, I am. The FBI agent crouched beside them. Mr. Cross, you upheld your end of the agreement. We'll uphold ours. Immunity, protection, clean slate. And her? Ethan nodded at Lily. She's clear. No charges, no record. This stays buried. Good. The EMT helped Ethan to his feet. He leaned on Lily, and she steadied him, her arm around his waist. You did it, she murmured. We did it. They walked toward the ambulance together, and for the first time in years, Ethan felt something he'd thought was gone forever. Hope. 3 months later. The neighborhood was quiet, tree-lined, the kind of place where people waved at each other in the morning, and kids rode bikes without supervision. The cafe sat between a bookstore and a flower shop, its windows glowing warm in the afternoon light. The sign above the door read, "Second Chances." Inside, the walls were painted soft yellow. One section was covered in children's drawings: crayon suns, stick figure families, a cat with too many legs. Lily stood behind the counter, arranging cookies on a tray, her hair loose around her shoulders. She wore jeans and a sweater, comfortable in her skin in a way she'd never quite managed before. The door chimed. A line of third graders filed in, chattering excitedly, followed by parent volunteers. "Okay, everyone find a seat," Lily called, smiling. "Story time starts in 2 minutes." The children scrambled to the reading nook, cushions and bookshelves in a cozy corner. Ethan emerged from the back room carrying a picture book. He'd traded sharp suits for jeans and a button-down, sleeves rolled to his elbows. The scar on his side had healed to a thin line. He looked younger somehow, lighter. He settled onto the cushions, and the children leaned in with wide eyes. "All right," he said, opening the book. "This one's about a dragon who was tired of being scary." The kids giggled. One boy raised his hand. "Mr. Cross, what did you do before you opened the cafe?" Ethan paused. Lily glanced over from the counter, smiling. "I worked in a place that wasn't very happy," he said carefully. "I made choices I regret, but I got lucky. Someone reminded me it's never too late to start over." A little girl piped up. "Was it Miss Parker?" The room erupted in laughter. Ethan's ears turned red. Maybe. When the story ended, the children dispersed to draw and eat cookies. Lily brought 2 mugs of coffee to the counter. One of the little girls approached, holding up a drawing. "Miss Parker, for the wall." Lily took it gently. The picture showed a man and a woman standing in front of a cafe, holding hands. Above them, a smiling sun. At the bottom, Mr. Cross and Miss Parker's home. Lily's throat tightened. "It's beautiful, sweetie. We'll put it right up front." The girl beamed and ran back to her friends. Ethan joined Lily at the counter, looking at the drawing. "Home," he said quietly. "Is that what this is?" she asked. "I think so. I've never really had one before." Lily reached for his hand. "My brother used to say everyone gets one chance to rewrite their story. He never got his." His voice dropped. "But maybe I'm living it for both of us now." "He'd be proud of you," Lily said softly. "You think?" "I know." She squeezed his hand. "You walked away from a life most people can't escape. You testified. You rebuilt. That takes more courage than most people have in their entire lives." "I had help." "So did I." She smiled. "We helped each other." A little boy ran up, tugging on Ethan's sleeve. "Mr. Cross, can you read another one?" "Sure, buddy. Pick one out." The boy ran off. Ethan looked back at Lily. "You ever think about the future, long term?" Her heart skipped. "Sometimes." "What does it look like?" "Honestly, quiet, safe. A place where people I care about can just exist without looking over their shoulders. Where love is simple and home feels real." "That sounds perfect." "What about you?" He was quiet for a moment. "I used to think I didn't deserve a future, that men like me don't get happy endings. And now? Now I think maybe I was wrong." He laced his fingers through hers. "Maybe I just needed the right person to show me it was possible, to believe in me when no one else did." "That sounds motivational." He laughed. "I'm trying." The door chimed again. An older couple entered, smiling at the warm scene. Ethan poured their coffee. Lily chatted with parents. The children drew pictures of dragons and superheroes and homes. It was ordinary, simple, perfect. That evening, after the cafe closed, Lily and Ethan walked home together. The sky was streaked with orange and pink, the air cool and clean. "Hey," Ethan said, stopping on the sidewalk. "I never properly thanked you." "For what?" "For staying, when you had every reason to run." Lily tilted her head. "You know what I tell my students?" "What?" "That the bravest thing you can do is let someone see the real you, even the broken parts, especially the broken parts. And if they don't like what they see, then they weren't your person," she smiled. "But if they stay, that's how you know it's real." Ethan pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. "I'm staying." "Good." He kissed her, soft, unhurried, full of promises neither could have imagined months ago. When they pulled apart, Lily laughed. "You know, when Emma set me up on that blind date, I expected boring." Boring? Cardigans, small talk about the weather, maybe awkward silence over appetizers. And instead? Instead, I got the Mafia. She grinned. But I also got you. Best wrong table ever? Definitely the most inspirational. They walked the rest of the way in comfortable silence, hands joined. Above them, stars began to appear, and in the cafe window behind them, two drawings hung side by side. One, faded and carefully preserved, a little girl in a red cape standing between two stick figures. The drawing from Lily's classroom, the one that had reminded her why she fought for others. Beside it, bright and new, a man and woman standing together in front of a cafe, hands joined, smiling under a golden sun. The caption in careful crayon letters, "Home." Because sometimes the people who need saving aren't the children. Sometimes they're the ones who've forgotten they're worth saving at all. And sometimes love isn't grand gestures or dramatic rescues. It's choosing, every single day, to stand beside someone and say, "You're worth it, we're worth it, this is worth it." Sometimes it's being brave enough to believe in second chances, for others and for yourself. If this story of redemption and courage touched your heart, subscribe for more inspirational romance tales that prove it's never too late to rewrite your story. Because everyone deserves love, everyone deserves home, everyone deserves a second chance, even those who think they don't. Share this with someone who needs to hear that message tonight. Thank you for listening, and may you find your own second chance at happiness.